Support. Give us a subscribe. 200 subs by September 30th is still the goal. I'm squishing my own head. Hello and welcome to another day of RPG A Day 2020. It is day 24. We've only got 6 more to go, so let's make them important. Now, some of these words have been very hard, some of these words have been very easy, some of these words have been very personal, and some of these words I just threw out random thoughts as they were percolating through this brain of mine. But it's Monday, it's the first day back at school, or if you're like me, it's a day of working through the virtual office, so nothing has changed. Except today's word is humor. Humor. Take my wife, please. A very wise man once said, dying is easy. Comedy is hard. And we're not going to talk about the comedy role-playing games like Toon or whatever, or Paranoia, because that's just, those work in this specific genre. We're talking about humor in our role-playing game scenarios. And if you are trying to be funny, silly, or stupid, or just spouting off pop culture references and little silly quirks and trying to be funny in a role-playing game, it doesn't work. Comedy modules don't work. Trying to be just the intentionally funny guy, intentionally stupid guy, the intentionally, oh, you look really beautiful this morning, I'm gonna quote, support me, Venom, movies and stuff, because that's funny. It's not. If you try and be funny, it's not funny. Humor only works in a role-playing game if it's natural. Really in any setting, unless you're a professional stand-up comedian, and then you're still doing a set. But if you're just sitting around the table or sitting across from each other via the virtual table, if you try to be funny, it doesn't work. Humor only works if it happens organically. If you say something, or you do something, or your words are misinterpreted, or you stumble and you say fuck instead of, fish, or, you say things like, well, my hole's really big too, and it's an unintended sexual innuendo. Those are funny because they happened organically. They happened as part of the experience. But if you try and be funny, if you try and just make quirks and quote pop culture and just throw out inappropriate words and just use foul language for the sake of foul language and being uncontroversial and uncomfortable and edgy just for the sake of edgy because you think it makes you cool, it doesn't. It just makes you stupid and it just drags down the game. Comedy in the game only works when it's natural, when it evolves through the role-playing process, and it happens just because. Some of the best and funniest moments that I've had as a player, I've had as a DM, just because I've said or done things either in character or just because, or somebody else has said and done things, or situations have happened naturally, and then they're funny. Experiences like, hearing somebody just yell out for no reason whatsoever, no, Eowyn, the umbrella is not a toilet. Or saying things like, how much does gold cost? Or, arguing with somebody who just offered you free rooms over the price of the rooms, which has happened 3 separate times in games I've run when I've had players argue with people over the price of the room, either at an inn or in a castle, and after they were offered free rooms, it's like, oh, you can have the rooms for free because of what you just did. How much do you want for the rooms? You can have them for free because of what you just did. No, wait, that's too much. 2 gold pieces. I just said you could have the room for free because of what you just... Fine, I will charge you. Or another funny thing that happened just naturally was the guy who was trying to pick... I talked about this, but the guy who was trying to pick locks, and he thought to himself that if he didn't hit a certain number, he just automatically failed. So it's like 12. Oh, I failed. I don't pick that lock. And he rolls a natural 20 picking the lock. But because he's built himself in his mind that if I don't hit this number, I failed. That we're all like, oh, natural 20. He's like, yeah, I failed. I didn't pick the lock. And I'm like, okay, you rolled a natural 20. So if you're telling me you didn't pick the lock, I guess you made it worse. And everybody's just like, laughing and going, oh, God damn it, Dan, come on. And so somehow he makes the lock worse. And that leads to more comedy when they find out that the lock wasn't locked in the first place, but now he's actually made the situation worse. And now that's funny. Or, things like when somebody said, an NPC was hurt and the priest was going to heal him. And he's like, I dink the priest. And it's like, what? I mean, I heal the priest. Unintentional sexual innuendos, unintentional humor works. But if you're trying to be intentional, if you're trying to just throw out word vomit because you're not creative enough to actually role play, and if you think quoting the Terminator and Dirty Harry and Mad Max, support me, Venom, I will shill out, stuff like that. Like, I do quirky. The whole point of the vlog is argumentative, grumpy, quirky. So that is the character I am portraying. So I often say quirky out of context things like, constantly referencing sandwiches, because I am intentionally trying to throw you off. And then sometimes I'll just, sputter out something and it'll be hilarious. And there's a lot of great, outtakes and blooper reels. And if you watch Yogcast or anybody who's just live streaming and they say something and it unintentionally becomes a sexual innuendo, like, oh, I'll follow Boof down that hole. I'll stuff that hole. And then, that becomes funny. But if you're intentionally trying to be foul-mouthed, if you're intentionally trying to be funny, if you're intentionally trying to be edgy, if you're intentionally trying to be controversial, if you're intentionally trying to be stupid, it's funny if I go Leroy Jenkins and run down the hallway. You're not. Humor only works in the contents of this when it happens organically. So don't try and be funny. Just be. And the funny will happen, usually in the most inappropriate time, something really dark and scary and serious in life, and you're all on the edge. Somebody will say something or do something or knock over a soda or fart and unconsciously break up the tension, and that'll be hilarious because that rush of endorphins and that rush of just getting all that anger and frustration and fear out into laughter, that's when it's funny. But if you try and be funny, it just doesn't work. Trust me, I know I am constantly trying to be funny, and it's obvious it's not working with you guys. Talk to you later. Support me!